Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Or let's see, I'm in Kansas City, Missouri. Oh, still morning for you all. Good morning. I am excited to be here. As you know, September is Realtor Safety Month. And this is a month where a lot of associations, brokerages, boards decide to devote programming to real estate safety. And for that, I'm extremely excited. I'm a former agent, and I have spent the last 30 years traveling the country, both in person and virtually, teaching real estate agents not only how to work safely, but how to protect the consumer as a part of your value proposition. And what I'm doing today, and I'm so happy, I've had an opportunity to work with your association before, and I have to say that I am excited when associations say, hey, our we need to get some kind of expert training in place. And then I'm a little biased. I'm happy when they choose me. So again, thank you so much for attending today. And this will be recorded. So for those who did not attend today, you can certainly check out the recording. And those who did attend today, if you like what you see, like what you hear, and I'm assuming you will, I would like you to share this recording. I do a couple of things a little differently. If you've ever attended one of my programs, you may know this. And if you have not, then a lot of times people think real estate safety is a little boring, and therefore no point, no need to attend. A lot think that safety is common sense. I'm here to say, as if your current or your past training has been common sense, today is going to be different. I am looking for interaction. I want to hear from you. I will ask questions, and I want you to click the raise hand button, and Elsie will unmute your mic, and then you can answer. I'm hoping I'm in a room full of salespeople, a Zoom room full of salespeople. So I'm hoping that you will participate so that we can make the training a little more interactive. And if for some reason you don't, then you get to hear me talk for the whole entire 2 hours. So let's get started. Why am I here? The National Association of Realtors mandates that every association and board must have some kind of safety training every year. So it is a mandate, it is a requirement. What I like is when an association such as yours says, hey, let's not just do the basics, let's do some kind of safety training that's different. You're going to notice that when I teach, I am talking about business building. I am talking about how you can lead with safety and use safety training to impact, to increase your bottom line and how you show your value. Everyone remembers, or you all know, I know you live it every day, the settlement in the industry, and that changed the way you do business. One thing that has been stressed over and over again is you are being told, show your value, show your value, show your value. There are 1.4 million realtors. Those are real estate agents who are members of the National Association of Realtors. There's also another 1.5 million or so real estate professionals who are not members. That means there are 3 million real estate professionals out there. The competition is stiff. My goal is for you to stand out, and you're going to do that by leading with safety. You will leave today knowing how to protect the consumers, the buyers and the sellers, from just regular everyday crimes as well as cyber crimes. The focus today is lessons learned. What I am here to do is to share real life stories of crimes against real estate agents in the industry and to show you how we can prevent that. We are not shaming anyone. That is not the goal, but we are talking about what can we learn from these crimes. Okay, here's the first test of if you all are going to be interactive or if I'm going to do the talking today. Is anyone comfortable enough to raise your hand and then unmute and then share the Beverly Carter story, what you know about the Beverly Carter story with us? So can someone raise your hand? If you are familiar with the Beverly Carter story, raise your hand and then just jump in here and give us a summary of the story. Okay, I am not hearing anyone, so I think I'm on my own on this one. On September 25th, just the anniversary was just a few days ago, Beverly Carter, a real estate agent in Arkansas, got a phone call. And she was in her office. She got a phone call from a cash buyer. Again, I've been a real estate agent. you know, I know what we do when we hear cash buyer, right? She made that appointment. She made the appointment to show a guy a house. Now, after she made the appointment, she started questioning herself. She's sitting in her office thinking, oh, is this smart? Something feels off. I am not comfortable. How do I know that? I had an opportunity to interview her office mate. She said Beverly just was not comfortable meeting this guy alone. She called him back. She said, I'm not comfortable with just you. He said, oh, don't worry. My wife is going to join us. So that gave her some comfort. She got to the property and it was just him. He said, don't worry. My wife had to work. We're going to pull her up on Zoom and the Facebook, not the face, the live, and, a live virtual, and she'll be here with us. Those were the last images on Beverly's phone. The plan was to kidnap her and to hold her for ransom. Things did not work out that way. Her body was found September 30th. Keep in mind, September is Realtor Safety Month. And one thing that I have found is there are so many crimes that happen around Realtor Safety Month, not intentionally, or maybe they just get more traction because of the month. But the Beverly Carter story created a movement that has not slowed down yet. You all have more than likely heard her son, Carl Carter, speak, and I'm proud to have been acknowledged by the Beverly Carter Foundation. I have my award here for the work that I do for real estate safety. So that is something that I am proud of, and that is something her story needs to be known. So every class about safe practices, I am telling her story. We are sharing her story, and the point is, what lesson can we learn so that that story is not repeated? One of the things that that stands out is she did a few things right. Although the end results were devastating, she did a few things right. Number one, her gut said something is wrong. And if you hear nothing else, you must hear this. I'm going to repeat it often, so get ready. Trust your gut. We all have a built-in survival mechanism that is hardly ever wrong. We call it instinct, sixth sense, fight or flight, intuition. Carl Carter Jr. calls it spidey sense. We call it flight or flight. Whatever you call it, listen to your body. Her gut said, hey, something's wrong here. And she acted on that and called him. When we talk about instinct, I'm going to refer later on to a book that you see on my shelf here called The Gift of Fear, and that should be mandatory reading. It talks about intuition, that every animal in nature has that tool. We're the only ones who ignore it. And intuition has no agenda other than to keep us safe. So that's clue number one, is if you get a funny feeling in the pit of your stomach, the hairs are standing up on your arms or the back of your neck, your heart's beating fast, and you know something's wrong, listen to your bodies. Get out of the situation, make up an excuse, make up a story, whatever it takes, but get out of the situation. The second one is Beverly always shared her schedule with her family. Her husband knew exactly where she was and what time she was going to be there. So when she didn't check in as normal, he knew exactly where to go. And he saw her vehicle in the driveway with a person side and knew that there was a problem. So there was no time wasted wondering later on that evening, where is she, what's going on? He was able to immediately get law enforcement and get help to the scene. In sharing that story, Coral's goal, my goal, is that we don't have a repeat of this story again. After she passed away, her family sued the real estate brokerage. Her family said if there was some kind of real estate safety training, we believe that Beverly would be here today. The goal is, how do we act in a proactive manner to prevent these crimes from happening? We're doing it right now. We're doing it today. So another big thank you to OCR for actually having safety education in a proactive manner. The question is, was a lesson learned? A few years later, 6 years later, Monique Bao was killed. Exact same situation. She got a phone call from a stranger. She met that stranger in an empty house. She was kidnapped and she was murdered. My goal is that when we hear these stories, we see what went wrong, we prevent them from happening again, so that Monique and Beverly stories are not in vain, and the other stories we're doing lessons learned today, and that the other stories that you hear, that those crimes are not in vain. I'm asking you to implement safe practices so that we don't keep repeating the story. Another thing, of course, their stories are almost exact. The thing that you have to keep in mind, the other lesson to be learned, is to know who you're meeting. Now, I'm going to assume that you all have some kind of safety app, whether it's a Forewarn or a Tether RE. And if anyone wants to unmute and tell me which one you have, I greatly appreciate knowing which app, which identity app that you all are using. Either, or if I don't hear anything, do I assume none? Okay, keep in mind that those are options, and both of them have options. If your association or board has Forewarn available to you as a member, or Tether RE available as a member, that is fine. If they do not, you can still get an individual membership on your own. And later on, I'll talk a little bit about what those tools do to help prevent the two crimes that we're talking about now, knowing who you work with. A lot of times agents say, hey, Tracy, how are we supposed to know these stories? How do we know about these crimes? How do we know about the articles that you write for Realtor Magazine and others? I created a Facebook group, and this group is where I talk all things real estate safety. I'm going to make sure you have a link at the end. So this is a group where if you have questions about any kind of safety tools, safe practices, this is where you go. Right now, for Realtor Magazine, I am working on an article about safety apps. I'm also going to work, the next one is about weapons. What are the weapon choices for real estate agents to stay safe? So if you have an app that you absolutely love and you don't know if I know about it, send it to me. I'm going to give you my email address, or you can even put it in the chat here, and then I'll take a look at the end. I can't see chat and the screen at the same time, but I want to hear from you. If you have a story about a crime or something that's happened, I want to hear from you. This is what I do. This is my full-time job, day in and day out. So share the information, be a resource. One other reason that I'm so excited about working with Orange County Realtors is in the past, I've been doing this 30 years. And what happens is I am going to associations, I'm going to brokerages, I'm saying, let me talk to your agents about safety. A lot of these crimes are preventable with education. And then I typically get the pushback is like, we're not worried about it. Nothing happens here, or we'll wait to safety month, or no big deal. They'll figure it out, or we'll share some resources online. So that's another reason I'm excited to be here, is that your association is like, we're pretty serious about keeping our members safe. So high five and kudos again. And I can't help but to keep saying that. And sometimes maybe it's a little overdone, but if you know my story and you understand how this industry works, you'll understand why. I had an education director. Okay, Tracy, your program is great. I've seen it before. Your information is so important for not only keeping agents safe, but to keep the consumer safe. She said, but it's not a good investment to bring you in. What? And she said, agents will not show up for any kind of training unless you're teaching them how to make more money. Sit with that for a minute. And I always ask the question, is that true? And some people, it's like, well, yeah, I understand you're commission based, but she was saying they won't show up for safety training. I had to put on my thinking cap. It's like, this is how I choose to make a living. I've got to show agents that safety training it can be profitable. I created the country's only real estate safety designation, the consumer safety and security specialist, where I am teaching agents how to make more money being safe. That's working in a safe manner so that you make it home, as well as making sure you protect the consumers. That's the buyer, the seller, even the FISBO. So that's what I do. This class is a 3-hour CE class. The agents, it's a full day, 2 3-hour CE classes. The morning is the safe practices. The afternoon is the technology and the cybersecurity, the deep fakes and the cybersecurity protocols. So a full day earns the designation. One thing that I'm doing today, I only have you for 2 hours. What I've done is I'm giving you a high level view of I'm shrinking 6 hours into 2 hours. So hold on tight. But my goal is that you're going to walk away today knowing those safe practices and how to make it home every night. in a realistic manner from someone who's actually walked the walk and done the job. But you're also going to know how to protect the consumer and how to add value to that relationship by leading with safety. And you will see what I am talking about. So this is not your typical safety class. I have to say it. I'm teaching you business building. So every part of the way you're learning how to build business. And we're doing that through sharing the stories, the lessons learned of crimes against real estate agents. When we heard about the Beverly Carter story about the family suing the real estate brokerage, my thinking cap went on again. It's like, how do I protect brokerages? How do I keep them safe and reduce their risk? I created a training class for brokerages where I'm telling you how to have a safe office. That means the four walls, what's inside, keeping the building safe, as well as safe practices for your agents. You must have some kind of safety program in place where you are teaching your agents how to avoid these preventable crimes. I'm just going to say it, how to avoid preventable crimes. So that's what I do. And I want to say I've had about 300 brokerages take that certification training. Again, it's a 3-hour CE class. And you walk away with a handbook, a brokerage safe practices handbook that you can start implementing immediately. So your agents cannot say they didn't know. And if something happens, you can prove that you did your job and you provided safety training and information for them. I have had the honor of being selected by the National Association of Realtors to host the country's only real estate safety podcast called Drive with NAR, the Safety Series. I actually won an award for doing so. I'm pretty good at talking, and hopefully you'll agree. I also write for Realtor Magazine, Inman, so I have a big platform, and I take safety seriously. I take your safety seriously. The podcast, we talk about a variety of topics. That's my twin sister, Stacy, there. If I haven't referred to her, I will refer to her because she's an agent as well. So we talk about topics like property management safety, commercial safety, just different topics that relate to you, showing your value with safety. I'm hoping that you will binge watch some of our episodes. I also had an opportunity to start my own podcast, Rip from the Headlines. This is where, whenever I hear a story about an agent surviving or a tool that would save an agent, I said, let's jump on. And I have the quickness to be able to interview people right on the spot. If you have a story to tell, I want to hear from you. And I also started Real Estate Safety University because so many small brokerages and even boards say we can't really afford safety. I said, let me make it easy for you. So I have a university, and it's like a membership where you can get safety training automatically. So it's safety done for you. Okay, here's my next question, and I'm going to see if you all are talkative today or if I need to just power through on my own. Can someone tell me a top risk of being a real estate agent? You can raise your hand and Elsie will unmute you. Tell me a top risk. What do you worry about when you go to work? If you're not worried, what does your family or your loved ones worry about when you go to work as a real estate agent? So let me know if there's anyone who wants to jump in and answer that question. What are some of the top risks based on your job description? Okay, looks like no one is going to answer. I am on a Zoom full of salespeople, and I'm always surprised when people don't speak up. But let's talk about your job description. You make a living meeting complete strangers in an empty house. You make a living sitting in an empty house waiting for strangers to walk in. You make a living going to a stranger's house, knocking on the door, going inside, and then locking the door behind you. How does that sound? So not necessarily safe, right? Okay, I can see the chat now. Okay, great, great, great. Okay, so Sherry said, weirdos coming into my open house. And that's exactly true. That's why we're going to talk about open house safety. So that is a concern. So the question is, have you heard that the U.S. Department of Labor considers real estate sales and leasing a high-risk hazardous occupation? They put you up there with law enforcement, with West taxi drivers, so security guards, convenience store workers, and looking at the job description, are we surprised? We're not, because it can be dangerous. So my job is not to scare you, but to remove the dangers. And I see Davina said working late at night. And then I have heard, Davina being a former agent, I've heard people say, well, don't work at night, show during the daytime. Is that realistic? Absolutely not. You need to be able to show when your clients are able to see the properties, and it may be nighttime. So that is a concern, and we need to talk about a solution. Again, lessons learned. This is probably one of my favorite classes to teach because we're going to look at real life stories. I don't do well with theory when I'm learning. I want to know what's real, and so that's one of the benefits that we are that you get today. I also stress making personal safety part of your business proposition, your business value propositions. When you prioritize your safety and the safety of your consumer, you're going to stand out from the other agents who are just let's sell, let's sell, let's less, less, less. You're saying stop. Let's talk about safety first before we move on. I guarantee you that if you are a brokerage and you put safety first, that's going to help you retain and recruit agents because whether people say it out loud or not, it can be a dangerous job if you don't know better. But with education, it's not as dangerous because you know what to do. And as a real estate agent, I'm going to talk to you about talking to the sellers about how to be safe and how to add safety to that relationship, the buyers, and even FISBOs. And you're thinking, what? Why am I helping FISBOs? I'm going to demonstrate why it's in your best interest to help them stay safe and how that could help you convert those properties into listings. So let's do a lesson learned. Let's talk about a storyteller. On July of this year, there was a real estate agent who entered an open house. Now, a guy came along with a knife. Wait, let me back up. A real estate agent who had an open house or opened the house, and then a guy came in with a weapon. He pointed the gun at the real estate agent and demanded that she undress. He sexually assaulted her, and then he took her keys to her vehicle. She survived. He was later apprehended and arrested. So she did something right. A month before, a real estate agent was at a property opening the door, and then all of a sudden, a guy rushed him. In this case, it was a 71-year-old guy, rushed him. He had a knife. He said, "You're going to write a contract on this house for me." And it just so happens that this real estate agent lived across the street from the house. He said, "We're going over to your house. You're going to sit down and you're going to write this contract." He physically assaulted this real estate agent. So the agent survived. He was bloodied and bruised, but he survived. He was able to go to law enforcement officials. And just like the previous story, the perpetrator was arrested. So they did what it took to survive. Both of those agents, you will notice, were alone. I remember back in the olden days when I would talk to agents and say, they were always being told, have a buddy. Someone must go with you at all times. I remember seeing real estate agents roll their eyes as like, not happening. I don't have time to wait. I need to go show. If I'm hosting an open house, I need to do it. I need to do what I have to do, not doing it. And we all know that there's truly safety in numbers. Here's the wake up call. Have you ever heard, and pay attention today too to the lessons learned. Have you ever heard of a story of more than one real estate agent being in a house or property? They were victimized. It doesn't happen often. And this is even in real life. If you hear of a person who's been maybe assaulted or sexually assaulted, a lot of times they are alone. Criminals are looking for the opportunity. So if they see someone alone, that's an easier crime as opposed to if there is a witness, someone with you. That makes it a little harder. So there truly is safety in numbers. What I am advocating for now, eye rolls and all, is that if you have an opportunity to host an open house, you never, ever, ever have to host one alone. You have built-in partners who will accompany you, and there will be no arm twisting. Do you know who those are? One is a new agent. I guarantee you they will tag along because they want to learn. That goes for showings as well as open houses. Open houses, a lender will never say no. Let me take that back. I did a safety program in North Dakota during the oil boom. That had to be about 10, 15 years ago. And it was just a boom. Everybody, you couldn't keep up with all the sales that was happening. It was a great time for real estate. In that market, I learned that lenders are like, we don't have to, we're not doing it. In this day and age, I almost guarantee you that a lender will say yes. And if we have any industry partners on here who may be a lender, a title company, insurance company, any industry partners that will accompany an agent for an open house in the chat section, please put your company name and say, I will. What that's going to do, it's going to help eliminate the excuse that I don't have anyone to do an open house with me, so I just had to do it by myself. So yes, I am now advocating real estate agents have a partner when you are working. Can you always have a partner when you are working? No, you can't. So we're going to talk about the safety measures that need to be in place, even if you have to work alone, because I'm realistic. Okay, here is a story that I learned about. I read about the story. You all might have seen the article. This broker, she walked into her office and she saw a distraught man talking to one of her agents, and she realized there's a problem. He was distraught, he was unkempt, and he was agitated. So she assessed the threat. She understood that her office, her agents were in office, everybody's working, they were all in danger. But let me back up a little bit. This broker impressed me. I interviewed her actually, and I'm going to share the link, the Rip from the Headlines podcast link. You have to hear her story. I said, how was it that you were able to stop a gunman? You stopped the situation. And she told me her story. But the bottom line is, she said every day when she walked into her office, she spoke to her agents. She took the time to speak to her agents on a regular basis. No walking in, going to the office, closing the door, and come in if you need me. She knew them, they knew her. So she had a great relationship. She walked in and she saw this man standing there, and she knew there was a problem. She walked up to him and the other agent, and then he dropped something. She didn't know what a magazine or a gun clip looked like, but it was on the ground. The other agent knew exactly what it was and kicked it out of the way. And so she at that point realized, okay, we have a problem here. She was able to evacuate her office. No one got hurt. She was able to de escalate this situation calmly. One of the things that she was able to do is her agents knew her because she took the time and talked to them. So they knew her, and they knew when they saw her that something was wrong. And she was able to not even really say a word to signal time to go, even with her eyes. They looked at her, and one of them contemplated jumping in and helping with this gunman here. But her looks, her body language said, don't do it. Evacuate like I told you to. And he got a phone call. His mom called. She took the phone and talked to his mother. And then she even offered him water. The phone rang again. It was his father. He was agitated, and she got the father off the phone. She learned that he was a veteran and he was possibly suffering from PTSD. What she did in her office, she happened to be a Keller Williams agent, is she walked him through the office, and keep in mind, her agents are working. Some are, they're doing their lead generating calls. Someone had a meeting or a training happening in the training session when all of this is going on. She kept a cool head. She offered this fellow water, and she was able to, again, to get everyone to evacuate the office. So she showed him they have an honor wall at the back of the office with veterans who work for the company. She showed him that, and that calmed him down. And he was impressed that they valued veterans. Now, meanwhile, someone has called the police. This broker had a great relationship with the police department. And here's another note. If you have a brokerage, even an association, the police department will come to your office and they will do an assessment, a security assessment. So this is where they come in and they say, hey, you need better locks here, and that window is a problem, that door is a problem, you need to trim back the shrubbery. They will do a free security assessment to help crime-proof your office as much as possible. And they're going to give you suggestions and recommendations. So she had done that. She invited them whenever the office had any kind of event. She invited law enforcement officials. I don't know if she said she ever stopped by their office and gave them treats or something, but the bottom line is she had a relationship with the law enforcement officials. Go back to the situation. You know someone has dialed 911. When her address pops up on the dispatch operator screen and the officers get it, they know who they're going to. She walked him to the back door after looking at the wall, and she opened the back door. Police officers were waiting to take him into custody. She is a true hero, and you really need to hear her story because this is something that could happen to anyone. Okay, our next story, and if you can't tell yet, I love telling stories and I love showing you that this is something that is really happening. It's not theory. This real estate agent in Virginia was hosting an open house, and a fella came in and he was acting a little strange, but he was okay. He left. The next week, she was hosting an open house again. He came back. And this time, she knew that there was a problem. He went out to his vehicle and he came back in with a wrench. He proceeded to attack her. He assaulted her, hitting her about 12 times in the face and head area. Just so happens this real estate agent had a black belt. She put up a fight. So, yes, she was injured, but she put up a fight and she survived. The lesson learned there is if you take self defense classes, one class is not enough. When the National Association of Realtors actually surveyed real estate agents, 70% of the agents said they had taken a self defense class. Anything that you can do to keep yourself safe, I advise it. The only warning I have is if you take self-defense classes, one class is not enough. Sometimes someone will offer a little self-defense workshop. You'll attend the workshop, you'll learn some moves, and then you call it a day. Absolutely not. That's a no-go. One class will not save you. You will not retain and remember what is needed in case of a dangerous situation. So that's where you're encouraged to sign up for classes, just like any weapons. You can't buy a gun, take a class, shoot the target, and think I'm good. You must practice over and over again. So self-defense is a great defense. She survived. I will talk about some of the articles that I've written for Realtor Magazine. There was another story, and this is the one in California, and you all are probably familiar with it, where there was an agent hosting an open house, and a guy came in, and she said, "Look, you are not here to see the house. You have to leave." So he proceeded to leave. And then there was a video, and I apologize, I didn't put the screen here. There was a video, and it shows him pushing her down in the front yard, right in front of the house. So there's a camera on the porch and him pushing her down. And she's yelling and screaming, and he eventually gives up and he leaves. Um, so then in that situation, she knew that attention is what criminals do not want. So she screamed, she survived. And the lesson learned there, and I wrote an article about it in Realtor Magazine about the things that she did right. Number one, her gut said something is wrong. She was not afraid to speak up and say, "You must go. I know you're not here to see the house. You have to leave." Secondly, the other lesson learned, she knew there was a camera on the porch. And if she got him outside, that he would be on camera. Thirdly, when he pushed her down in the front yard, broad daylight, she knew that if she drew attention to the situation by screaming, that would increase witness potential. And that's what saved her. He did not want that he didn't want the attention. He left. So she did a lot of things right. You can Google or go to the Realtor website and nar.realtor website, search my name or search this article title and see her story. So the point is, the lesson learned here is to listen to your body, create witnesses, and do not be afraid to speak up. I see a question here. Do you advise us to get a gun and a CCW? If so, is it difficult to obtain a CCW for female realtors? Here's what I'm going to tell you. Everywhere I go, everywhere I teach, more and more agents are saying, "We do a concealed carry." I spoke this morning to a Florida association. One of the agents said, "I have a concealed carry." But here's the key. Um, of course, you have to abide by the rules and the laws of where you live, and it's different across the country. But more agents, male and female, are carrying weapons. But the key is you must practice. Of course, you get it legally. And then when I interviewed the National Association of Realtors attorneys years ago to say, what does the NAR say about weapons? They said, "We don't say anything. You go to your local association and see if it's permissible." So if your local association and the rules where you live say you can have a concealed and carry permit, then yes, you can. But more importantly, make sure your brokerage allows you to have one. There may be some liability or risk associated with that. So make sure you have one. And the most important thing about a concealed and carry is if you will actually use the gun. I've talked about practicing. You must practice on a regular basis. One lesson is not enough. You must practice where it becomes second. It becomes like muscle memory. If you have to use it, you are comfortable enough to use it. Next, you must have the weapon accessible. There was a story in Colorado where the real estate agent was showing she was up in a bedroom with a guy who opened up his coat and he had a can of pepper bear spray and a knife. She happened to have a gun. And she shot the gun at him. He took off. But the key is she was comfortable using it. Secondly, she knew how to use it. And thirdly, she used it. You must have it accessible. You must take classes. And I have had through the years, I've been doing this 30 years, agents who say, female agents who say, my husband wants me to carry a gun. He's insisting on it. I don't want to, but he is making me do it. If you are not comfortable with a gun, then you're going to be the person who hesitates and your gun will be taken from you and used against you. So if you're not comfortable with a gun, then do not carry a gun. If you have an open mind and you're comfortable with it, take the classes, get comfortable. You must have it accessible where you can get to it. And most importantly, you have to be willing to use it. And the best tool is a weapon that you will use, whether it's pepper spray, we're going to talk about that. Stun guns, not necessarily advised, but whatever weapon that you're willing to use is the best one. Okay, I see Debbie said Orange County is fairly easy to get a CCW, but I agree you need to train, and it's the best equalizer for women. I can recommend an excellent training. Oh, can you write the training facility? And Debbie, yes, recommend a training facility. This is all about education. And you're saying they have, oh, women focused classes. Okay, I love the thought of that. People think it doesn't make a difference, but it does. So Debbie is going to write in the CCW training facility that she uses. Thank you for stepping in on that. But whatever weapon you choose must be the one you use. And that could also include self-defense. I don't know if any of you all work internationally or work on a global basis, but I noticed last year that there were crimes happening to real estate agents outside of the country, and nobody was talking about them. And me being who I am, I said, we need to shine a light on international crimes. I got an opportunity to write an article for Inman about real estate safety, and there were crimes, and again, right around Safety Month. One was a real estate agent who met clients she did not know, and she met them on a property, and her body was found burned. And another agent in New Zealand, and you'll see this is all up here in my head because this is what I do. I live and breathe this. In New Zealand, who they said was door knocking. So it's unclear if she was door knocking or simply showing. There are two different stories. She was missing, and she is still missing to this day. It's been over a year. Someone has been arrested in her murder in that situation. Um, so there are crimes happening against agents in Canada. Another agent was helping his client, the owner of a home, evict tenants. In this situation, the owner said, look, we're just going to pay him out, pay out his lease. So will you please take him $4,200 in cash, like the cash for keys kind of program, and tell him to go. I think you all can kind of guess what happened in that situation, right? They assaulted him and they robbed him of that $4,200 in cash. So when we talk stories and we talk lessons learned, the lesson learned there is no cash. If you're in property management, hopefully you know that. Again, our Drive with NAR Safety podcast, we did a whole episode on property management. No cash. When you are working, don't even give the illusion that you have cash, and that way that will keep you safe. So that in that situation, that could have been prevented. What I have noticed is there are real estate agents here in the United States who work with global clients, who are international clients coming in to buy property. That's a whole other level of dangers that many haven't talked about. What I've done is I've written an article for Realtor Magazine. It will be published the first week of October with their global division. And I'm saying, hey, agents, no one's talking about it, but Tracy, the safety lady, is. If you're working with clients coming into the United States, sometimes their names will not show up on your typical background checks. So you need to understand that, and then you need to figure out a workaround. And you also need to understand that there are certain scams that international buyers perpetrate on local real estate agents because they don't know better. I am shining the light on those. And I don't know if any of you all have taken the CIPS designation, that is NAR's global designation. And I'm saying safety should be a part of it. And until it is, I am educating through Inman and again through Realtor Magazine. The article is coming up. And last year I got a chance to go to your breakout, the California breakout session. I spoke at NAR next and presented to the risk management forum. And I had one of your agents, California agents, say, you need to come to our, how you have the little gatherings after the fact, and you need to talk to us about global safety. So I was honored to do that. Definitely understand that there are different safety implications on an international basis. The major thing I'm going to talk to you about today, I've been talking about, is how to lead with safety. I want to keep you safe. I want you to make it home every night, but I also want you to get an edge against those other real estate agents by leading with safety. Always be the real estate agent talking about how to keep the consumer safe. And that is your edge. That's how you're going to grow your business, by being the one who they know is going to talk. From the seller listing agreement, the seller listing appointment, that's going to be a security consultation too. So you're saying, hey, I'd like to come by and talk about listing your property, keeping in mind that they've probably already interviewed, what, 2 or 3 other agents, right? Here you come, leading with safety. And instead of walking in talking about putting it in the MLS and their profit, the proceeds, you're saying, I'd like to talk to you about how to keep your home safe and your family safe and secure, and your possessions secure while your house is on the market. So walk with me. And I'm giving you a seller security checklist that you are going to have in hand when you walk in the door. You're not talking about selling the house. You're saying, here's how to keep it safe. And let me tell you why that's going to work for you. 100% of every adult on the face of the earth is concerned about being safe, keeping their family and their possessions safe and secure, right? So imagine you competing with other real estate agents, and you're the one walking in the door with this checklist. And you're saying to them, here's how to keep your house safe while it's on the market, whether you list it or not. But the implication is, I'm here to teach you how to be safe. You're going to tell them to get medicine out of medicine cabinets, jewelry out of jewelry boxes. That's your conversation with them. And you're walking through the house, get these schedules, the kids' schedules off the refrigerator. You don't need people knowing where your kids go to school or where you are when you're not home. Remove personal pictures throughout the house. And in the old days, sellers would say, nope, we're keeping our pictures up. We want to feel like we're home until our house sells. You're not going to talk to them about it being a safety issue. I don't know who's going to walk through your house, and I don't know what their intentions are. So I'd rather they not know that you have young children. I'd rather they not see pictures of your family, because now they know where you live. So let's go ahead and remove those for safety purposes. So do you see how that works, how the response is going to be different than you're just simply saying it looks better and it can help the buyer imagine themselves living here. So you see what I'm doing here. That's what you're going to do. That's how you're leading with safety with the seller. We're going to talk about other ways also. You can find that article in the close, and you can search for that. Again, I'm going to give you a link to everything I talk about, so you don't have to worry about writing it down. Now, here is a question and answer. I'm going to need someone to respond. And now that you all are doing the chat. I'll take whatever response I can get. You can unmute. Here's the question. In this industry, as a salesperson, you think you have to be a pretty good judge of character, right? I've had so many agents say, I can pretty much look someone up and down and determine whether or not they mean me harm. And they sincerely believe that. I am here to say, stop it. No more. You can't judge a book by its cover. Now, that means in real life, you don't know who you're dealing with. Criminals don't have a certain look. And that also means in the age of AI, generative AI, cybersecurity, and in the age of deep fakes, no more believing your eyes. So let's play a game here. Let's say you're an agent, you have an upscale property, and you are holding it open, or you're going to meet a buyer at this property. And you're the agent who says, I can judge people pretty much by just giving them an up down. Upscale agent looking at a property. I'm going to show you a picture. I want to know if anyone can tell me who this is. He pulls up in this vehicle to look at your property. I want you to tell me in the comment section or out loud, tell me who this is. Exactly, Richard, good job. It is Sam Walton. Sam Walton is the founder of Walmart. He was one of the richest men in the world. That is his truck. That is how he presented himself around town. So imagine you as the luxury agent, upscale agent, he's walking up to your property and you judge that book by its cover. it would cost you business, right? Okay, here's another one. I know someone's going to know who this is. Who can tell me who that is? Can anyone look at that picture and put it in the comments or say out loud who that is? Exactly. Is that Richard again? Richard is on it. Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy was a notorious serial killer. Tim knew that too. People always know Ted Bundy, a notorious serial killer. Do either one of you remember how they described him? Give me a couple of words how Ted Bundy was described. How did they refer to Ted Bundy? And there have been documentaries about him. Look at this, Adela. Yes, super. Look at you guys. Yes, they're here. And look at all of this information is right. Charming, super charismatic, handsome, dandy. I see everyone, everyone's answering this one. Intelligent. Okay. Think about people who judge that book by its cover. What he would do is he would go to grocery store parking lots. He would have a fake cast on, he would have a cane. He would ask ladies, could you please help me? Women would look at him and they think, oh, he's good looking. Oh, he looks okay. They believed that they could judge that book by its cover. So judging this book by its cover will cost you your life. I say all of that to say you can't tell. You don't know who is a criminal. You don't know who to believe. You must trust your gut. Isn't she cute? And I know somebody's going to know her. I was surprised. I had a class last week. I forget which location, but someone knew who this was. Anyone know her? This looks like an old high school yearbook picture. This could be a neighbor. What if I told you that every single one of these women were serial killers? Grandma killed 6 people. She would kill them for their social. She had a boarding home. She would kill them for their social security check. And is she the one who buried them under the porch? You can't believe what you see. So then you're saying, so how on earth are we supposed to know who to trust? Where do we get the information from? Every animal in nature is born with a built-in survival mechanism that is hardly ever wrong. It is called, well, I'm going to ask you all, y'all are participating here. Tell me what it is. What is the fear signal that we all are born with that could keep us from ever being victimized if we just listen to it? Can anyone write in the comment section what is the tool that every one of us possess? Oh, yes, Sherry's got it. She said fight or flight. Exactly. It's got a few other names. One is intuition, instinct, sixth sense. Coral Carter Jr., if you all are familiar with Beverly Carter's story, you probably have heard Coral Carter. He calls it spidey sense. So between the sixth sense, instinct, intuition, we all are born with a built-in survival mechanism that could save our lives and prevent us from being victims if we listen to it. Again, on the shelf behind me, you'll see about 3 or 4 copies of that book. This book will change your life and it will change the way you view safety. So I wish I could mandate that people read that book. That book is excellent. Okay, and Severine is saying, listen to your body because it's designed to be safe. Excellent point. Again, every animal in nature has it. Human beings are the only ones who ignore it, and it has no other agenda except to keep us safe and to warn us of danger. Here's another story since we're talking lessons learned in stories today. Here in Kansas City, I'm in Kansas City, Missouri. 2 veteran real estate agents, both been in the business more than 20 years. One agent was going to show a doctor property that afternoon in Mission Hills. If you've ever been to Kansas City or read about it, you can even look it up. Mission Hills is one of the richest, wealthiest neighborhoods in the country. So she was going to show them houses there. That's where the Kansas City Royals players live, the Chiefs players, like the rich folk live there, right? So she was going to show houses that afternoon. And then she told her, the other agent on board duty, she said, will you let me know when my client gets here? And she said, do you know this doctor? She said, nope. She said, okay, you haven't checked him out? She said, no. Okay. So she sees the guy coming in the office. She went back and she said, your client is here. She said, but I've got a bad feeling about him. She said, what are you talking about? She said, I can't put my finger on it. She said, something is wrong. Can you please postpone the showing until you get an opportunity to check him out? She said, you're so silly. So she went to show the doctor houses that afternoon. So Later on that evening, she got back to her office. She got a phone call from the doctor. And the doctor was talking to her. And she said, wait a minute, this is strange. You're talking as if we've never met. What's going on? He said, what are you talking about? This is strange. You're talking as if we have met. She said, I showed you properties today. You came in the office, you had your lab coat on. We went and looked at houses all afternoon. He said, 2 weeks ago, someone broke into my office and stole my lab coat. It wasn't me. So she was shook up. And at that point, she asked the other agent, she said, what did you see that I missed? The other agent said, at the time, I couldn't tell. She said, my gut just told me alarm bells were still flying, were ringing, the alarms were sounding. She said, I couldn't pinpoint it. She said, but after you left and I had some time, she said, it came to me. The guy walked in with a lab coat on. I'm asking you all, have you ever seen a doctor in a grocery store with a lab jacket on? That's a yes or no. What about at the gas station? I see no's coming in. What about at the gas station at the pump with a lab coat on? Yes or no? It doesn't happen. And then she said, when he asked for you, he put his hand on the counter and his fingernails were absolutely filthy. Ever seen a doctor with filthy fingernails? Doesn't happen. So in the moment, her body sent out a warning signal, something is wrong, but her brain couldn't process what it was. So in the situation, she had to do what she knew best. So she just said, don't do it. I'm warning you not to do it. And she couldn't give her any reasons. Okay, thank you, Tina. Tina's leaving. Tina, make sure you listen to the recording to get the rest of it, okay? Thank you for stopping in. So in that situation, she knew something was wrong, but she couldn't communicate it clear enough to the other agent. So the question is, did the other agent get that same gut feeling? She could have. What could have blocked her from hearing it? The thought of a commission. So she might have just pushed it down and said, I'm going to go make this commit. I'm going to earn this commission. Every animal in nature has it. We just have to choose to listen to it. And then here's a story, an impactful story about intuition that spoke volumes to me more than any other story. I had an agent who said that she had a showing schedule with a guy she did not know. And she said she had a bad vibe. Something was wrong, but she couldn't put her finger on it. So what she decided to do is go ahead and show him anyway. So she went, showed him property. Everything was fine. She came back home. And so she said, oh, my gut was wrong. The following week, she saw a news story, and that exact same guy murdered another real estate agent. Her gut wasn't wrong. It just simply wasn't her time. I tell you that story to say that that voice has no agenda. It has no other job other than to warn you when you are in danger. Listen to it. If you hear nothing else today, listen to that. I wish I could make this book required reading. So let's talk about creating a safety plan. Every real estate agent must have a safety plan, and it must be based in safe work practices, not only for you, but for the consumer as well. Do you all remember during COVID? And I don't know if California closed, but a lot of states did. A lot of them didn't. I learned, I was surprised to learn. But during COVID, some states you did not have a choice. You were not going to show a property. You were not showing up in real life to work, but you had to. So while associations were working to get real estate deemed essential, you still had to make a living. And so a lot of agents had to learn how to work virtually. So almost everyone, including my mom, who is a senior citizen, learn how to do a FaceTime, learn how to do a Zoom, learn how to go live on Google, right? So there's no excuse. So your first meeting can always be virtual. And we're going to talk about the buyer agency agreement and how that plays into all of this. But that first meeting can be virtual if you can't arrange to do it in real life. So have a virtual first meeting and you explain to the buyer, this is a part of my safety protocol. I am working with strangers and you don't know me either. So this is a chance for us both to make sure that we're comfortable working together and to know who we're working with. Here is where you're going to get an edge. You all know that there was of course, there was a settlement agreement and the way things work changed. Now, some states had already had, you had to get the buyer agency agreement signed. Did California already have a requirement that you had to get that signed in advance, or was with the settlement, was it new? Here in Kansas City and a lot of other states, it was brand new. So agents' hair was on fire. It's like, oh gosh, how do we get buyers to actually come in and sign this agreement? This is going to be a hassle. This is going to destroy our business. Other agents, it was business as usual. We've been doing it all along. So here's where you get an edge. Here's how you're going to make the buyers want to meet you and sign the agreement, whether virtually or in real life. You are going to tell them that you need to have a buyer safety consultation with them. Before you look at any properties, before you talk about properties, you need to say, I need to talk to you and I need to educate you about ways that criminals are going to try to scam and defraud you. Wire fraud is a big deal. I want to make sure that you don't get fraudulent wire fraud, change instructions and send your money away and get defrauded. Then you cannot buy a house and then you cannot sell them a house, right? So it's in your best interest to stop wire fraud up front. So you're telling them, I need for you to come in virtually real life and let's talk about how to prevent fraud. And then, by the way, here's how we're going to work together. And that's where the buyer agency agreement comes into play. After you've shown them, I want to prevent you from being the victim of a scam. I want to work with you and keep you safe during the real estate process. Then you tell them, here's how we're going to work together, and you bring out the agreement. I have heard so many conversations in person and online of agents say, I'm not comfortable whipping out a piece of paper and having a buyer who I don't know commit to working with me when they don't know me. You've warmed them up by talking to them about safety, right? So that is one way. And if your first virtual meeting, you can do an overview. When we meet in real life, here's what we're going to do. I remember people saying, let's meet at the coffee shop. The first meeting at the coffee shop. The whole point of the first meeting back in the olden days was called CITO, come into the office. That's to increase witness potential. They come in your office, they know that they have been seen. Someone can identify them if something goes wrong, right? And then after COVID or even before with a lot of virtual companies, virtual offices, people thought it'd be a great idea to meet in coffee shops. Take a look at the picture. Take a look at that coffee shop. Do you think if you met a new client in that coffee shop and if something happened to you, would the barista or anyone be able to identify you? Would they be able to pick the maybe perpetrator out of a lineup? Absolutely not. The whole point of that first meeting is to increase witness potential. I guarantee you, if we have any industry partners in this meeting today, they will let you use their office. If we have an industry partner, a lender, title company, anyone on here who would let a real estate agent use their conference room or their office for that first meeting, will you put your company name on there and then say, yes, you would? I guarantee you that you're any industry partner. I'm an industry partner here in Kansas City, Missouri, and I serve my association in any way possible. So I know my fellow industry partners will definitely allow you to meet there. If not, go into an office or even go into a coffee shop where you're known. If you walk in with your client, they say, hey, Susie, then that client knows, okay, they know them here. If something happens, there will be witnesses. So definitely keep that in mind, that the goal of that first meeting is to increase witness potential and to outline how you're going to work with them. So we're going to talk a little bit about the dress code. I'm not here to tell you to dress professionally. I am here to tell you to dress safely. That means ladies, high heel shoes, they look good on, but they're hard to run in. And I even hate to have to say that when we're talking about safety, but that's the reality. Imagine being in a property and you have to get out in a hurry, whether you feel uncomfortable or there's an emergency, and you have on high heel shoes. Hard to do. Hard to do safely, hard to do quickly. Imagine being in your cars on the side of the road. There's no cell signal. You may not have battery. You may have run out of gas, and now you have to walk for help. Hard to do in high heel shoes. I was in Asheville, Tennessee a few years back, and I had a real estate agent take off her stiletto. She held it up. She said, this is my weapon, and I know how to use it. Everyone can't do that. So the better thing is to have shoes that you are comfortable getting away in if necessary. And then this one goes for male as well as female agents. Save your fancy jewelry for special occasions. I had a retired kindergarten teacher who had just gotten my new agent safety orientation training. The agent, she said, "I'm so happy I've retired. Now I get to I can wear my fancy jewelry to work, my pretty ring, my jewelry to work every day." And I had to say, no, no, you can't, because there's already a target on real estate agents because of your job description. Maybe would-be criminals know if you want to isolate an agent, you can find them sitting by themselves in an open house. You can schedule a showing and there will be an agent. You can pretend to be a seller and a loan agent will walk to your door. There's already a target on you. So don't add one by having expensive fancy jewelry. You don't need to have your devices all with you when you're working. Only keep your phone, keep it accessible, and keep it where you need it. Okay, anyone have any questions? I'm going to move on here, and I want to make sure there are no outstanding questions before I keep going. Any questions? Okay, here is a question from Sherry. Is it a bad idea to have our photo on our open house signs? Sherry, what a great question. And we're going to talk about pictures, but let me answer that now. I remember back in the olden days when I would talk about real estate agents having a bullseye on them. Again, and I have a twin sister, I think I mentioned that, and Stacy would have our pictures on the Kansas City Chiefs schedules that she would mail out on the Kansas City Royals schedule. Our picture was on everything, on her business cards. And my question to her is, Stacy, will your picture help you get more listings or help you sell more properties? And why do you do it? Why are you doing this? She said, I am my brand. So she was talking about branding now. I am my business. So she wanted to be associated with her business. I heard another agent say, I want to be in the grocery store and I want people to say, oh, that's the real estate agent. I see her everywhere. I'm okay with that. The problem with the sign is that you have to keep in mind now, if your business practices are secure, then you would be okay. Imagine a maybe would-be perpetrator driving through a neighborhood, looking for real estate signs, looking for a possible potential victim. And keep in mind that real estate crimes are not just happenstance, they don't just kind of occur, they are actually targeted crimes. The perpetrator is looking for a specific real estate agent, whether they're looking at your picture in the little magazines, if they're looking for your picture online and trying to target what they like. I remember having an agent, she said, I'm old and ugly, no one wants me. You don't know who they want. They could want someone who's older. They could want someone because maybe they won't put up a fight, or maybe they have more assets. They could want someone younger, or they may be looking for someone with red hair or someone with brown eyes. You don't know who they're targeting. So anyone can be targeted by an agent. So let's say you have a real estate, maybe would-be perpetrator driving around looking for signs, looking to see if there's a picture on any of those signs that meet what they're looking for. Everyone knows. All it takes is one phone call to the number on that sign to get that person to show up. So they've targeted you based on your picture on the sign. What I like about the settlement is that forced you all to stop and slow down. If you've ever heard Carl Carter speak, I remember him referring to agents as Pop-Tart agents. That's an agent, you get a phone call, I want to see a property, and that agent is immediately meeting you at a property, just pops up and does it. The buyer settlement slows that down. So Sherry, if you have your photo on your sign now, all I have to say is a professional photo, please, and we'll talk about that. And secondly, if you have safety protocols in place, meaning they're not calling and getting you the picture on the sign, they're not calling, getting you in that empty house alone. Because one, you will have them come in and sign the buyer agreement, and they will come in an office or somewhere where they can be recognized. They know that it is you. They know that you have safety protocols in place. And secondly, they know that they have to come in and sign that paperwork. So there's no just showing up at the house. So the business has changed where that could be different now. So great question, Sherry, if you have your safety protocols in place. And also, if you are doing the background checks and you know who you're dealing with, then you remove some of the dangers. And if you have someone show up with you to show the property, even if it's a sign call and they like what they see in the picture, it's not so easy if you show up and you're not alone. So good question, excellent question. Okay, and I see that, okay, Elsie is saying to ask your question, put them in the chat if you have a question as we go along. And I did see that someone shared information before I forget about a class. Where is that? Someone shared, okay, Davina shared information about a firearms training class. Thank you. And that information is in the it says classes posted on their website. Talk to Sherry. Okay, so thank you for sharing resources. That is extremely helpful. Okay, so let us move on. We have a lot of information to cover. Okay, next still. Okay, we've talked about how you dress. We've talked about the first meeting. So let's move on. I have often asked the question, who here would pick up a hitchhiker? And I get real estate agents looking at me like I have two heads and like, who would do something that crazy? Now, what I have noticed is in the past, in the olden days, as I like to call them, agents used to do it. No issue, no problem. Nowadays, agents will never do it. So then my question becomes, if you would never pick up a hitchhiker because it is dangerous, would you ever let a buyer, ride in your car with you? So the question is, if you have a new client you never met before and they want to ride with you, I remember agents saying, I want them in the car with me so I can build loyalty. We're going to talk. I'm going to get to know them and build that relationship. That is fine as long as you have taken the proper steps and you vetted them, the background check, you have them sign the buyer agency agreement. They've done that with witnesses around and you've done your homework, then that's an okay. My sister used to work with clients that were transferring to Kansas City. And so she would have to pick them up at the airport or pick them up at a hotel. So here she is with a complete stranger in her car. The difference is that it was a referral from the local university or local business saying, we've hired this person and now we need you to work with them. So that removes danger there. Not all danger, but it removes a lot of the danger. If you do your homework and you do the proper vetting, then you will feel comfortable and that they're legitimate buyers, and then you will feel comfortable with them in your car. But to just out of the blue have a stranger in your car just because they say they want to buy a house, not good for business. Okay, so let us talk now about agent information. If you are new to your brokerage, you've probably filled out paperwork, including your emergency contact information. If you have any health issues, including allergies or any medical conditions, your vehicle information. But if you've been at a brokerage for a while, or if your broker never asked that information, stop. You must provide that kind of information to your broker, manager, owner in case of an emergency situation. And this is something so often overlooked. That's why I am highlighting it today. Go to the NAR.realtor website. You can look for the agent information form. That is a form that you need to fill out at least once a year minimum, twice a year if there's any changes, but at least once a year. Brokers, you need to tell your agents, hey, I need everyone to fill out this form. That's going to have your emergency contact. What happens if something happens to you while you're here in the office? Who do I contact? I had a broker owner in Oklahoma said she had an agent who had really severe health problems. I think it was diabetes. She said he passed out one time. Because she knew what his health problem was, she was able to get him the proper help immediately. So you need to tell any medical situations, who's your emergency contact, the type of vehicle you drive, the color, the license plate number. What happens if you're missing and law enforcement comes to you before they can find the family and they say, what was this agent driving? It would be nice if you knew the answer to that. So this form needs to be completed a minimum of once a year. This is something I say to real estate agents all the time. And if you use any kind of tracking app, I want to hear from you. Put it in the comments. Anyone here use any apps where you share your location? I'm going to tell you that this is something that every single real estate agent must do. You are an independent contractor because you want to set your own schedule. You don't have to answer to anyone. I get it. But in this business, someone needs to know where you are at all times. That is indisputable. Someone needs to know where you are. It could be an adult child, it could be a spouse, it could be a friend, it could be a fellow agent, someone in your family. Someone needs to know your location at all time. What happens if you have an appointment, let's say this afternoon? You want to show the Johnson family and you're going to be out with them. You want to show them property and you don't tell anybody because you don't have to. You're an independent contractor. You don't have a boss, right? What happens if you're scheduled from, let's say, 1 to 4, let's say it's 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7, 8 o'clock, and you're not home? First of all, does anyone know that you are missing? Yes or no? They have no idea because you never told anyone. That is why it's important that someone needs to know your location at all times. So I'm looking here to see what some of the apps are. I see that Debbie uses Apple Find My for the family. So there are apps out there, and someone always says Life 360. That's another location app. So that is one. Um, I know Life 360 has um, a free version, and you can pay to upgrade, but the free version is more than powerful enough to allow you to share your location with anyone. I'm also going to talk to you about a better way, something you already have and that you already use. Okay, share your location with your loved ones. Correct. Okay. Anyone ever lost a phone? I remember one time in my life I lost my phone. I it wouldn't ring. I couldn't find it. So what I did is I got to my laptop, I got to my tablet, and I said, find my phone. What Google did, and you all know by now there's no such thing as privacy. Google said, I can tell you where you've been. I can tell you where your phone has been. I got a map, a timeline, not only a timeline, a map of everywhere that I had been. Of course, I had been with my phone. So I got a timeline, and this is something for every single one of you that can track you. It tells you if you're driving, what time you went somewhere, how long you were there, how long it took you to get there, and again, a map of everywhere you had been. So I got a map of where I had been with my phone. Either the battery died or someone took your battery out. I never got my phone back. So the next thing you do, once you find out that Google cannot locate your phone, is that you give it instructions to erase your device. So it's like if someone finds my phone, you're not going to have any information on me, so I'm erasing the device. So make sure you spend some time in your security settings and make sure you find the locate your phone and locate all of your devices. As a matter of fact, I can't keep up with my tablet to save my life, but that has saved me so many times. And then also make sure you do that. So let's talk a little bit about Google Maps. I do see, again, the app that some people are using, but keep in mind you already have something on your phone that can help you share your location. It's called Google Maps. Now, Google Maps tells you how to get from one point to the other. And I have some people who say, I don't need that. I know my way around town. One thing that I use it for is to help time. If I'm going somewhere, I want to know what time I'm going to get there. And Google Maps is frighteningly accurate. So a lot of people use it for whatever reason. So use Google Maps, and Google Maps will allow you to share your location with someone. So you put in your directions where you're going. You see there's an option, share my trip progress. There's my sister Stacy again. So I can say I want Stacy to be able to log into Google and see where I am in real time. So that is exactly what I can do. You can do it for free. It's already on your phone. It's already there. I had an agent. She said, look, I just have my husband and my son on there. They can access my location 365 days of the year, 24/7. I don't have to think about it. They have access to me at all times. And then I had an agent. He said, look, I don't want my wife to know where I am all the time. He said, I might be playing golf and I don't want her to know that I'm not working. So you can control it. He can set just the hours that he is showing for his wife to have access to his account. So you get to select that. So the bottom line is you already have a tool on your phone that can help you share your location with someone. That needs to be paired with a Google Calendar, a shareable calendar. So someone needs to know where you are at all times. So you can say, meeting the Johnsons from 1 to 4 on your calendar. Someone can look at your calendar and say, oh, Susie is working from 1 to 4. I haven't heard from her. Let me go to the map and let me see where she is. You all have seen Street View. They can go to the exact location where you are. And they can even take a look around and see who you're with and where you are. Powerful, powerful tools for sharing your location. Again, it is free. It's already something that you're working on. Okay, so becoming a local safety expert can grow your real estate business. I think I've already talked about that. I just kind of threw this one in here. If you all have a lot of apps on your phone, if you see my phone, the screen is full of those icons. So many apps, so many of them are free. What you need to understand is if you have any free apps on your phone, there is a cost involved. The apps are free, but you are the product, you are the cost. Your information is what they need in order to make it free. This is a photo editor app. In order to get this free app, you need to give the app provider permission to access your camera, your microphone, typically your contact list, They need to know your identity. They need to know your in-app purchases. What all are you buying? So there's a lot of information. If you are signing up for a free app, stop and take the time and look at the what you're giving up in order to get a free app. The safer choice is to actually pay for the paid version of the app. They're a little more secure. So keep that in mind. Okay, I'm going to show you two screens. There are names in each of these boxes. I need you to look at every single name, and I want you to tell me if you notice a theme. What do you notice about every single name on the screen? And once you see what I'm asking, once you see something, put it in the chat or unmute, raise your hand, tell me what you notice about the names on the screen. There's some kind of theme, something in common. Okay, someone's saying full name and location. Okay, so keep looking. Look, Sherry, look at that. Look at the name. You said full name and location. Look at the full name, Sherry, and tell me if you see what I'm talking about. Every single one of them are Mel's. David Abbasi was a real estate agent in Atlanta who was showing investment properties and he was killed. Ryan Vega, a real estate agent in Las Vegas who was showing clients and he was stabbed in the neck. He survived. Sidney Cranston Jr.'s body was found after a year and a half of him being missing. Trying to see if there's a name. Lane Gamble in North Carolina was a real estate agent sitting in front of a property when someone approached him and put a gun to his head. John Doe, this was a real estate agent. If you watch NAR safety program, this agent tells his story. He said, I'm a big guy. He's 6'2", about 230, 50 pounds, something like that. He said, I'm a big guy. I never saw it coming. He went to a showing. He had his wife with him. She was sitting in the car. He went inside the property. Now, he had shown this property before, but he walked into the property to show, I think it was a female, and he walked in the hallway and he saw all of the doors were closed and his gut said something's weird. I've never seen this before. The doors all open. There were 2 or 3 other accomplices. He was physically assaulted and robbed right there. A few lessons learned with that story is one, he said, I'm a big guy. I never saw it coming. Male agents are victims of crimes too. So that's why I always applaud when there are real estate agents who are male showing up for safety program. Number 2, he had someone with him. It was his wife. The only deal is she was sitting in the car. She had no idea what was happening inside until after the fact. So if you have someone accompany you, they need to be there with you. If they're not an agent, they're not licensed, they cannot talk about certain things. There are certain rules to follow, right? But their physical presence could keep you safe. And third, his voice said, something is weird. Why are these doors closed? This is not normal. They haven't been before. His gut said there is a problem. So we learn lessons from actual crimes. So keep that in mind. Frank Wayman, a broker in a small town in Missouri, who was in his office when someone knocked on the door, either wanted to get some water or use the restroom. They held him at machete point. David Stocco is a property manager who was killed on site when evicting tenants. They killed him on site. Mickey Sodoro, an agent in Nebraska, almost the same kind of story. He was at a property to talk to a tenant, a potential tenant. They killed him on site and hid his body in the crawl space. Stefano Barbosa, this is a Florida story. He was walking out of a listing. A teenager pulled up in a car, held him at gunpoint, said, we're going for a ride. They went to an ATM machine. He took $500 out at the first ATM, took him to another ATM and took another $500 out. After the teen got the $1,000, he killed Stefano, the real estate agent. Nashville, Tennessee, a real estate agent had his clients with him. So here's a story where there wasn't safety in numbers, but there's still lessons to be learned. Had his clients with him, and he was trying to open the door. And again, a teenager, and this wasn't the same year that the other teenager acted up. He held him. He pulled the gun. He said, "Run for your life." So that real estate agent was thinking, "Do I take on this kid or do I run for my life?" At that point, he threw the keys and they took off running. So everybody was safe. And the teenager took his car keys, stole his car. He happened to have his tablet in the car, with the location on. Remember, I talked to you about share my location? The law enforcement officials were able to track that vehicle because that tablet had the location enabled. So the lessons learned there is number one, utilize technology. Some people keep an extra old cell phone in their car activated with the location, or they'll buy an AirTag, an Apple AirTag, or Google has some kind of tool, a tracking tool. So have a device in your car hidden where the criminals can't take it out. Secondly, his gut said, here's the fight or flight question. Do I fight him or take him on? He's just a kid, or do I run? He decided to run. So there are so many different takes. Someone said, is which is right, fight or flight? There is no right answer. It depends in the moment. If your gut says this is a situation where you stay and fight, then that's what you do. Other situations, your gut's going to say flee. You must listen to it. Before the last known murder of a real estate agent happened, remember, before NAR Next, I think it was in Florida. Christopher Hager, during the pandemic, he had a virtual client, a senior citizen who purchased the property. He bought the house sight unseen. So he moved into the property. And at that point, he got there and he decided, I don't like this house. After he closed it, I don't want this house. I want to return it. Christopher, the agent, went over to talk to him to calm him down. And this guy shot and killed Christopher. And then he turned the gun on himself. I spoke in Florida that year, NAR Next, and I had an agent come up. She said, I was a friend of Christopher's. And I said, what would you recommend? How would that situation have been different? And she said, before closing on any sight unseen virtual deals, you must require the buyer to see the property in person before they close. That would have solved a lot of problems. Also, my sister Stacy, I remember she sold a house virtually, $1 million house virtually. They never stepped foot into it until after closing. So it depends on the circumstance and the situation. The real estate agent that I talked about in the beginning, the one who was assaulted at knife point and B, he also goes on this list. I wrote an article for a Realtor magazine called Four Ways Male Agents Put Themselves in Danger. That was the most read article of the year in 2017 because no one else was talking about this topic. And again, you will notice that I talk about topics that no one else is really covering because I live and breathe real estate safety. This is all that I do. I do safety for schools, for businesses, and real estate is probably the biggest part of what I do. It keeps me busy, so I know the stories inside and out, and I also know what's not being talked about. And having been a former agent, you can tell that I am also telling you how to be safe and build your business doing so because you're commission based and you have to make a living. I want you to make a living in a safe manner. I also wrote that same story for RAS Media. So there's a lot of information out there. My articles, again, I have a big platform. I take it seriously. You can always find tools and resources. Now, we did have a question already about pictures. Here's what I have to say. I can probably distill this down into something very simple. If you use a picture in your business, it must be a professional picture. Do I have to say it again? A professional picture. I can't tell you how many times I've seen the pictures, a little soft, fuzzy, glamour shot type pictures. That's a no. I can't tell you how many times I've seen the whole full body pictures. I'm not sure if the goal is to lead with sex appeal or not, but those are hard no's. You need to project yourself in the way you want to be treated with respect and professionally. Now, what we won't do is we will never say, oh, I saw their pictures, they deserved it. That will never happen. No matter what a person is dressed like, what they have on, we never ever blame the victim. So we're saying just dress in a professional manner so that you can be treated professionally. I have seen some things. So let me show you what I've seen. In the olden days, there was this Google Meet group or Google whatever, Google Plus group, hot real estate agents. Nothing good could come of this group. And I didn't even show half the pictures because I do not want to get banned from the state of California. I saw this billboard. One of these days, I'm going to run into these agents, but these are public articles, public news stories. This agent said that this picture of her on a billboard is what caused her phone to ring, her website visits to increase. She said from 2,000 to 20,000 in just one day, based on this picture. So this is how she is marketing herself. I'm just saying, be extremely careful with the image you put out there. Male agents do it too. this agent actually made news headlines because he said if female agents can lead with safety, why can't us male agents do it too? And he leaned into his, I guess you want to say sexuality, and there was a lot of backlash. People are saying, what couple, what guy would ever leave his wife to look at a property with an agent who is trying so very hard to be sexy? Probably going to impact your business that way. Same thing if the female agent was leading with her sexuality. I'm saying just be professional, keep it professional. Now, I had a class in Vegas, and I'll probably one of these days meet the agents, but the agent said, why are you telling us not to use our picture? That's what we use. That is how we market ourselves. I said, give me your business card. She gave me their business card. The picture on the top left is the picture that was on the business card. This is the website, or was the website. I have not checked lately. It says, call our hotline for any of our angels. My concern, and I told them, is that if someone's calling that hotline, what kind of calls are you going to get? You have to think about how people are in this day and age and proceed with caution. Let's talk about another story. We're here for lessons learned. Okay, let me take a look, see if there are any questions. I'm just zipping through, and we have 35 minutes left. So Beatrice is saying, thank you, Tracy, for the insightful safety reminders. It's always grounding to get a fresh perspective, especially when things can shift so quickly. Staying diligent is key, and your guidance really helps keep that front and center. Thank you, Beatrice, so much. Hearing feedback like that tells me it's worth it. I think I mentioned to you all that safety is a hard business, and I'm always chasing clients, begging them, please, please let me protect your agent. So hearing that kind of comment makes it all worthwhile. And again, your association, I never have to twist arms. They want the best for their agents. So thank you. Um, Ashley Oakland, most people have heard this story. This was a real estate agent in Iowa who was holding an open house. We talk about open house safety, and she was holding an open house. People always say, and I always hear someone say, a certain part of town, the rough part of town, the bad part of town, the dangerous part of town. I don't work there, I don't go there, so I'm okay. As long as criminals have cars, any part of town can be dangerous. And then we think it's not going to happen in a so-called good neighborhood, but an upscale open house, luxury neighborhoods, high cost neighborhoods, that's where the good stuff is. So she happens to be in an upscale open house. Most open houses are held in the nicer properties, right? And she was actually accosted and murdered on site. And still, there has been no arrest, no resolution. So she was working by herself in an open house. And it's saying here, no visitor screening, no backup present, no security measures in place. I don't know for sure if that is the case. What I do know is that what happened to Ashley should not happen to another agent. So one thing I go back to, if you can have someone accompany you during an open house, that is the safest way to hold an open house. You can require ID at sign in, and I've talked to enough of you all to know, enough agents to know, oh, I'm not comfortable asking someone for their ID. I've even heard people, there's an app that says you have to take their picture. Agents are saying, we're not taking anyone's picture. So some things you're not going to do. You can require them to sign in, but what if they're signing in Mickey Mouse? Or what if they write false information? What you're doing is you are looking them up and down, and you're going to be able to give a pretty good description to law enforcement officials if necessary. You're observing their height, their weight, hair color, any distinguishing marks. If you can get a glance at their car, license plate, make and model, that is even better. We're going to talk about security cameras. Most people's homes have security cameras. Some do not. I'm going to tell you a way to trick people into thinking there is a security camera, and that's how that can help you make your open house a little more safe. So in this situation, having another agent there with her may have solved the problem. And so that way, again, solo open houses, I really would like those to become a thing of the past. A lender will always say yes, a title company, insurance company, inspector, more than likely yes too, or a new agent at the very latest. So let's talk a little bit about safe open houses. Do a security walkthrough. When you took your seller listing presentation, your seller listing your presentation, you told them to get valuables out of sight, medicine out of medicine boxes, jewelry out of jewelry boxes. And then all of these devices, I see everyone has their little tablets scattered throughout the house. get them out of sight. If you have any weapons, any expensive artwork, lock them up. Put them in storage somewhere or put them in storage on site. I had an agent who says, I do not like showing property when there is a butcher block, the knife butcher block in the kitchen. Won't do it. Out of sight, lock it up, put it away. Introduce yourself to the neighbors across the street and on either side. I'm going to hold an open house. Come over, take a look. What you're doing is you're inviting traffic there. So you're not alone during that time, or there's a third person or another person there. And then you're telling them to be a witness. Look out, take a look around. If you see anything that doesn't make sense, call 911. I will talk to law enforcement. Also, agents' valuables. I cannot tell you how many times I've walked into an open house and an agent will have their purse sitting on the island in the kitchen or on the dining room table, and they're another part of the house, or your device, your laptop or your tablet or your phone. Keep it in the car. If you need it, run out and get it. Lock up at the end. And this is where you get to make sure all doors and windows are locked so that criminals don't plan to re-enter later. I had a friend, Lydia, she's on the NAR safety committee. She said also make sure that they have not pulled that emergency release in the garage, because sometimes criminals will pull that to disengage the electronic door opener so they can manually open the garage later. Check everything. And you already know not to park in the driveway so that you won't get blocked in. So many things to remember. So here's another story. Now, this one is a long, long time ago. This real estate agent was showing a vacant property, and the suspect was later identified, but it was a tragic story. And back in 2001, it was something that really shook the community. He was showing the property by himself. It didn't appear that there was anyone with him, and he wasn't able to escape the property. Now, this story is getting more headlines because his wife, I just saw an interview with his wife. She said, I am dedicated to making safety training mandatory for real estate agents. You can believe that I will be in touch with her. I've already got the email composed and to say, let's partner together. I want real estate safety training to be mandatory for agents. NAR makes associations and boards offer the training, but requirement is not required that you attend. I want agents to say, I need to go to training. And that's why I make my training the way I do, where you're learning how to build your business and show your value and to be safe and to protect the consumer. So I'm making, and someone said, I'm bringing safety back. And I kept hearing someone say more than once. I heard it twice in 1 month, where someone says real estate safety is just not sexy, and they meant it in the way that no one wants to take it. And then that's why I said I need to make it appealing. So that's why you'll notice I'm talking about business building. So in this situation, two agents might have been the solution, knowing where your exits are. So if you're hosting an open house, if it's not your listing, you need to know exactly how to get out in a hurry, whether it's the front door, the back door, the garage door, the backyard. How do you get out of the backyard? Where is the gate? And can you find your way out in a hurry? In the neighborhood, can you find your way out of a neighborhood if someone's in hot pursuit and you're not on a dead-end street? Make sure you know your way in and out of a neighborhood. Check in. Someone can have it on their calendar or send them a text. Hey, is just checking in, letting you know I'm okay. Or if they don't hear from you, they now have your Google location. They can go to Google Maps and they can see exactly where you are. They can look at your calendar and know who you're with. So you need to take safety protocols very seriously. And we talked about pre-screening. I saw the question someone is asking if OCR has either Tether RE or Forewarn. And I'm very curious to see the answer if you get it before we leave today. With open houses, it's kind of a hard situation because you can't really turn people away. Or can you? I remember in North Dakota, I had an agent say, if I do an open house and if I'm uncomfortable, it doesn't matter. I have to let the person in the house. I have to let them stay in the house. Your safety is priority. So you are not required to allow someone who means you harm or who you believe means you harm to stay in the house. I have a few stories here, and I'm watching the clock. We have 25 minutes. So I am hoping I'm not talking too fast. If I'm talking too fast, someone tell me in the chat, and if I'm okay, let me know. But I had a real estate agent who said, when I host open houses, I want to sit near the front door where I can see who's coming. She says, I know I can't determine by their car or what they look like if they mean me harm. She said, but I just want to get a feel for who's coming. So she saw a car pull up and then all red flags. Her gut was telling her, this is dangerous. Something is wrong. And she got up and she locked the door. Now, it was a late model car. The guy was clean cut, but something told her, danger, danger. So he's ringing the doorbell and screaming through the door, I know you're open. I just saw someone leave. She said, look, I am closed now. And what she did is she was closed to everyone. She did not wait until someone came along who looked okay. She was closed to everyone. So that's what she did right. As soon as the coast was clear, she took off. Another story, an agent said that she had a client who was going to be looking. He pulled up and there was something a little weird, not so overwhelming, but she said, come on, go ahead and look in the house. I'm going to stand out on the porch. I'm on a phone call. She kept talking, and I forgot if she said it was an imaginary call where she was giving directions to the house so that he would know that, hey, she won't be alone for long. But he walked in the house. He realized she was not coming in. He took off. He walked past her without saying a word. He was not there to see the house. So you do what you have to do. But if you feel that you are in danger, then you have the right to say no. And just like the agent, the first story I told you, one of the agents in California, she said, you're not here to see the house. You may leave now. So be prepared to trust your gut. Oftentimes I talk about putting up a sign. If there's a camera in the house, and most people have cameras in their houses, you have to disclose that. So put up a sign at the front door saying, smile, you're on camera. And I had agents say, oh, I'm not putting that ugly sign up. This is a nice house. So I said, okay, let me solve a problem. So I created signs, and I call them like designer signs. Use 3D removable tape. Tape one to the front door and throughout the house, outside of the media center, the bedroom, just to say, hey, smile, you're on camera while you're in this house. And people act differently when there's a camera. And then when you leave, take the signs with you, ready for your next open house. So you're solving a couple of problems. One, you're notifying them that there is a camera here. If there really is a camera, you've notified them publicly. Secondly, even if there's not a camera, you're saying, there's a camera here, so behave yourself or else there will be witnesses. So it solves a couple of issues. And again, that's something that I created. I'll give you the link to my Etsy store at the end. And I had to make them attractive so agents will actually use them for open houses as well as for their own houses. Another story. So this happened in Mississippi, and there's so many stories out there, but the premise of today's program is lessons learned to hear from real life stories. And again, this is a class I love teaching because I get to share real life stories to make sure that these headlines don't repeat themselves. Okay, so this one was a registered sex offender who was sending threats to agents, and you all have heard these stories. These happen more often than not, and they eventually were arrested. So what they were doing is they were contacting agents directly, finding their phone number and contacting them directly. It says here that there was no lead filtering. I'm going to talk to you about a story where there was a lead situation and it didn't solve the problem. So you still must practice due diligence. You need to verify the ID. And again, that's what Tether RE does. That's what Forewarn does. You need to verify the information. And before I forget, tomorrow, from 12 to 1:30, I am hosting a safety program with Forewarn. So if you have any questions of Forewarn, I want to make sure you have the link. I want you to log in, and I want you to be able to ask your questions of Forewarn, get a demonstration of what Forewarn can do and how it can help you be safe. So bottom line is check out who you're working with, know properly. For the agent, we've talked about this, I believe. This is my second class of the day, and I want to make sure I'm not duplicating information. But for the agent, when you're showing property, the client always goes first. You never allow them to be behind you, never allow them to block your escape route. For the seller, here's where you're showing your value with the seller. You must have a conversation with them about what to do if someone shows up at their front door with a name tag on, a business card in hand, maybe even a couple of people in tow, and say, I am an agent and I want to look at your property. May we come inside? You have to have this conversation with your sellers. You are to tell them that under no circumstances are they to ever let anyone in the property. They are to say, no, I'm going to leave. I will lock the door, and then you can access the property through the lockbox, the regular showing system that's normal. Wait till I leave. That way, they know the showing will occur if it's a legitimate real estate agent, and that removes that problem. But I guarantee you, if you don't have that conversation, a motivated seller is going to let them in. Here's something you all need to do, and I don't know if anyone here has ever Google themselves. I advise you to Google yourself on occasion and make sure you know what is out there about you. I'm just trying to make sure I don't miss any questions. If you have not Googled yourself, set up a Google alert. Just Google alert. Set up a Google alert with your name. It could be, I do Tracy Hawkins, safety and security source, Tracy Hawkins, safety expert, Tracy Hawkins, real estate safety, in quotes, out of quotes, your name, a real estate agent, where you work. That way, if anything is published about you online, you know what's out there about you. You can control your reputation in that manner. You will get a link, an email link saying, hey, your name showed up here. So you can see exactly what's there. I'm going to ask you, can anyone tell me how you can use this to protect your consumers? How can you use this to protect your consumers from Craigslist fraud? Anyone? Imagine if you put every single one of your listing addresses in Google Alerts. Imagine there is a criminal who hijacks that listing and they post it, they take the pictures, they change the contact information to themselves, which is the basis of a Craigslist fraud. And they post that. And then now all the leads are coming directly to them. However, you, as the real estate agent who is protecting the seller, you get a Google alert saying, hey, that address is shown up here on Craigslist or on some other website. You get to call your sellers and you get to say, hey, we need to get signage up. We need to stop this right now, report it to Craigslist. So using Google Alerts is a great way. There happens to be a product out there, and I'm in the midst of writing an article for a Realtor magazine about safety apps, and it will be published within probably a week or so. And there's one called Property Shield, which does the same thing as a Google alert, except it does it on a higher basis and it uses AI. So it's constantly scanning for addresses, the duplicate addresses to show up somewhere, and then it will immediately take them down and notify you. So that is called Property Shield. I want you all to watch for my article in Realtor magazine about apps, safety apps is going to be listed there. There's so many tools that are out there most agents don't know about, but that's what I do for a living. Okay, so what went wrong in the story? Solo meetings. Again, there truly is safety in numbers. A lot of times the agent failed to identify the client, the buyer. Agreement takes care of the buyer side, but we need to work on the seller side. And I've told you these tools that we mentioned, they can also do a background check on your sellers. Make sure you know who you're dealing with. Vacant homes and properties, if you have someone with you, you reduce that danger and you do your homework, first and foremost, knowing who you're with and having a safety system, a safety plan in place. That's what we're talking about today. If there are any questions, go ahead and put them in mute. I'm going to wind up. We have about 15 minutes here. And now I'm going to talk to you a little bit about cybersecurity protocols and stories about state breaches that you must know about in the age of AI. I have a whole generative AI class where I'm talking about how to use the tools in a good way, how to use them safely, and how cyber criminals are using them to come for you. Okay, my last question. Well, I'm going to say it's my last question. I want someone here to tell me their first car. Type it in the comment in the chat. What is your first car? Okay, I see two here. Volkswagen, Toyota Celica. Thank you so much. What about your favorite teacher? Oh, wait, your favorite book. Sorry. What is your favorite book? Everyone has a book. I've shown you mine. I read it every opportunity. I have more than one copy. The Gift of Fear. Anyone want to share what your favorite book is? Okay, I see another Volkswagen Rabbit. Someone said the Bible. Thank you, Evangelina. Okay, and the final question. She said, not answering anyone, Debbie. Okay, the final question is your high school mascot. Okay, and Debbie knows. And I see Diana said Warriors. Guess what just happened? Panthers. Guess what just happened? You were socially engineered. I see Lancers. Um, Criminals trick us into sharing information that can help them guess our passwords, right? Social engineering happens to all of us. My goal is that you pay attention and that it cannot happen to you in a bad way. On social media, you see all of these questions. They're fun to answer. We all do it, and it is perfectly fine to do. But going forward, I want you to think twice before you do it. Here's why. What happens if you get locked out of an account, online account? It could be a bank account. It could be a social media account. You're going to have to do a lost password and a challenge questions, right? Look at those questions. And I know that Richard was leaning into that as well. And who was that who said not doing it? Not answering anyone, Debbie anymore. Debbie, because these are typically the questions that are your security challenges. What's your first car? Favorite book, favorite teacher, mother's maiden name. You see where I'm going with this, right? Going forward, be social on social media, but just pay attention. Think like a criminal. Are they trying to get information that will allow the criminals to steal your personality, your identity? Okay, so cyber criminals use AI and social engineering in so many different ways. The main one is clicking on potentially malicious links. We're going to talk about that, and to trick buyers and agents into revealing information that they should not. Tighten up. I was speaking at the California, I think it's called Reimagine, the conference one year. There was a big MLS data breach, and agents for 8 states could not use the MLS because they got hacked. There was a breach. So they had to call agents from other states to be able to use their MLS, right? And those agents were not able to get work done on their own. I saw the representative from that MLS that had the breach. He had a booth there. And I went over and I said, tell me, what would you tell the real estate industry? I reach thousands of agents every year. What message do you have for them? He said, one, tell them to tighten up their cybersecurity protocols. And that's what we're going to do now on our remaining 15 or so minutes. We're going to talk about tightening them up. Secondly, he said, tell them to invest in cybersecurity training. If they don't invest upfront, they will invest after they have a breach, and it's going to be more than money. They're going to spend a lot of money to get back on track. And then secondly, their reputational damage it's invaluable. You can't get that back easily. Anyone here have Mr. Cooper servicing their mortgage? I do. I got a letter, I want to say last year or 2 years ago saying, hey, we had a data breach. We're so sorry, but your information is out there now and we apologize. Do I have faith and confidence in Mr. Cooper now that they've let a cyber criminal have access to not only mine, but thousands, maybe millions of their customers? No. Imagine you as a real estate brokerage, as an agent or a team, if you had a data breach and all of your clients' information was involved in the data breach. Now you have to contact your client to say, I'm so sorry, but all of your information is out there on the dark web and the bad guys have it. That's not a good conversation. The goal is to prevent it upfront. So he said, tell them to invest in cybersecurity training upfront, or you're going to pay later, and you will pay later. CertifID is another one that I think is going to be in the app article, a safety tool that you need to know about. This company is going to help stop wire fraud. And wire fraud is not an if question, if any of your clients will be impacted by wire fraud, but it is a when question. They will be impacted by wire fraud. However, there's one disclaimer. You can stop it. A real estate agent who is trained and safety aware can stop their clients from ever being victimized, having that conversation with them. 1 in 20 consumers will become a victim. Think about that. If you sell 20 houses a year, one of those will be involved in a wire fraud situation. And that number is only growing because it's easier, especially with AI, for criminals to send wire fraud phishing emails. I'm going to show you how. Privacy. If you're using tools, is anyone here using any AI tools? Can you put in the chat? Are you using ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Microsoft Copilot, Midjourney? Any tools? Can you write it down? If you're using these tools to create content, I do it every day. If you're using it, you need to make sure you understand that there's no such thing as privacy. Any information that you enter in there is public. It could be financial information, health information. I saw someone who they went and got medical diagnostics and they put that complicated deal, all the things wrong with them. Here's your test results, here's everything. They uploaded it to Chat or Gemini, and they said, based on this, will you please tell me the best diet, best exercise plan, what my prognosis is? And they uploaded their medical history for the world to see. Nothing personal, private, or proprietary. I see a lot of mostly Chat GPTs, paid version Chat GPTs. What is called Protect, Severine? Called Protect. I don't know what that is. Is that an AI tool? But any of these tools, you must understand that that information, someone at that company is reading your information. That's how it trains the models. We're giving it the tools in order to give better output. We're training them. So your information is being used. Of course, you have okay, Call Protect is against spam calls. Thank you for sharing that. In my full class, I do get a chance to talk about those robocalls and spam calls. But Severine, thank you for that resource. I wrote an article in July for Realtor magazine called Scam, Shamed, and Deepfake Real Estate Agents Speak Out on the $15 million Crypto Con. I understood that there was a Secret Service agent who showed up in DC for the NAR legislative meetings, and he talked to the Risk Management Forum about a crypto scam that was going on. You know what I did? I said, I need to write this story. I was able to interview two of the agents who were victimized, and they were interviewed in that article. And I also talked to them on the Rip from the Headlines podcast, and their conversation is fascinating. Let me just briefly summarize it. It said there were 60 agents across the country who were scammed out of $15 million. What I'm going to tell you is that is an understatement, because I was contacted after the article was published. More agents said it happened to me. So this is an understatement. And I know every time I do a class nowadays and I talk about this, I guarantee you there's an agent who will reach out and say, hey, it happened to me, or it almost happened to me. Last time I did a class, I think it was for New Mexico. And she said, I got a meeting this afternoon with someone who wants to talk to me about investing in crypto. You might have saved me. Here's what happened for both. And I'm looking at the clock, so I'm going to summarize. Two agents, one was a novice investor, one was an experienced investor. They had cash buyers in the $1 million, $1.5 million and up range. So one of them said, I have to verify funds. So she is looking at their funds and saying, oops, must be nice to have that kind of cash. And this guy, he says, I can teach you how to invest like me. And the other agent, pretty much the same thing. I can teach you how to do it too. You see all the money I have, I can teach you too. I can teach you how to invest in crypto. Both of them went to the App Store, whether it's for iPhone or Google, the Play Store, whatever. They went to legitimate app stores. They downloaded a legitimate crypto investment app. So they started investing a small amount of money, and they were able to look at it and they could see their account growing. And then they were able to take little withdrawals out. They could take their money out. So everything obviously is legit. At some point along the way, the criminal moved them from the app to a website. So they're looking at their account balances go up and down, but typically up, up, up. One of them had her family involved in the investment. They were remodeling their homes, working on their homes, and then to the tune of $800,000, she invested. Her parents and even a sister invested in this crypto because it was doing well. The other one, I think she lost maybe $400,000. But what happened is when it was time to make a withdrawal, they were told, "Oh, you have to pay a deposit or you have to pay a fee to withdraw." That's when they realized they had been scammed. Like I said, there are more agents. Some of them were shamed. How could you be so stupid? Why did you let this happen? So they were shamed. And LC, I wrote an article for OCR, and I don't know if it was published about this topic. So if it has been published, will you put the link there so everyone can read it? And if not, I want you all to watch out for it. And I see that Davina said, delete me, removes her private information. Again, another great resource. Thank you for that. Bottom line on the crypto apps is that it could happen to anyone. What tied this into the deep fake, and that's the topic, that's what brought me to California last year for the Reimagine conference, and from DC and a point in between, people want to talk about generative AI, cybersecurity. They were talking to the person who was scamming them, oftentimes a video Zoom meeting, and it turns out that they believe after the fact that it could have very well been a deep fake. They might have been looking at someone who did not exist. The question used to be, will technology replace real estate agents? Now the question is, will AI replace real estate agents? There is a movement to say, hey, be careful, you all are going to be out of business. As a matter of fact, AI is going to take over all of us. That's a very real possibility. But in the real estate world, will it replace you? I had an agent in Virginia say, if AI can't look a client in the eye, smile at them and shake their hand, I'm not worried about it. Meet Emeka. Now, I saw Emeka interviewed by a reporter who smiled at it, shook his hand, and looked it in the eye. There's so many jobs out there, even real estate, where they're trying to replace everything with AI. My job in my regular class is to teach you how to use the tools in a safe way. Understand that you can no longer believe what you see, what you hear, or what you read. You could be talking to a deep fake, even looking straight in the camera on the phone. There are so many good things that you can do with the tools, and I would get a chance to show you how to do these things in a safe manner. The biggest thing is data privacy. Don't put anything private in there, and understand that if it's good, it can also be used for evil. So you need to understand that these tools are great. I use them every day. They have a tendency to hallucinate. That means they lie. You must fact check everything. Anything on this that comes out must be fact checked. This looks real. It seems real. All of that is made up. Fact check everything. If you get market statistics for your association, I know you do. What do you do with it? Some people just post this graph. A regular person looking at the graph is thinking, what does that mean to me? I'm saying upload it to one of the tools, ChatGPT, Gemini, any of them, and say, read this. You must fact check whatever it tells you, fact check it against the actual number. Look at, make sure it's realistic. Now you tell it, I need a blog about what's in that graph. It's going to say, hey, sellers, it's a hot market. Property selling fast, buyers, it's a tight market. Hang tight. So that's what it can do, create a blog post. Also, it is also talking directly to the buyers, and I like talking to FSBOs. I want to help you convert FSBOs. And then here you are, you're saying, now I need you to give me a social media post from that same information from that original graph. There is your social media post. You must fact check and make sure that everything is accurate. And then I need you to write me an email, because I want to make sure I address my sellers and my buyers. It's taking those numbers and it is writing a dynamic email with a great subject line. Now create an image, and it will create an image. If you don't like the image, you can prompt it to do more. Let's talk. We're going to wind up here with some cybersecurity practices and protocols. Scammers are using AI to do voice impersonations. The grandparent scam used to be, hey, grandma, grandpa, I'm in the hospital, I'm in jail, please send money. Don't tell mom and dad. Now they're taking your actual voice. All they need are 3 seconds of your actual voice to duplicate your voice. There's my deepfake grandma. And you'll notice I will disclose when I use AI. So what they're doing is your broker will call you and say, I need a gift card scam. Instead of a gift card, instead of texting you, they're calling and saying, I need you to send me a gift card. Send it right now. So you're sending a gift card because your broker told you to. What you don't realize is that is a deepfake voice impersonation. So after today, you will know not to trust any phone calls. If it's a lender saying, hey, I misplaced the client's information, will you please send me over a bank statement or two? And you don't have to redact it. It's just us. It could be a deepfake voice. You must have a code word going forward. This is for your family to prevent grandparent type scams, and now they're calling everyone. This is for your team and your real estate business. You must have a code word. If they don't know the code word, then you cannot answer the questions. Here's a real quick story. We'll wind up here, and I know I'm talking super fast. I'm glad it's recorded. This is a real life story of a deep fake, and this happened in Florida. A 19-year-old was going to buy his first property. It's a lot. His dad was a broker. The seller would never show up in real life, would not come on the phone because they had hearing problems. So the broker, they never met the seller. He was prepared to wire the $53,000. The title company, I call her a shero. She says, we usually do a proof of life meeting. They said, we can't do a Zoom. And then somehow, some way, they decided to do a Zoom. So she's looking in the bottom right, the blue is the seller. And the seller saying, the movement was a little jerky, and the title company says something's wrong. Oh, we have bad cell reception. And then finally she said, I need you to raise your hand. The seller could not raise their hand. It was a deep fake. He was about to wire $53,000 to a seller that did not exist. They stole someone's ID, a missing California woman's ID, and created a deep fake. And he was going to spend $200,000 or $300,000 building on it. You need to watch out for red flags. So I am telling you now, going forward, even a virtual meeting may not be real. If there's a sense of they're rushing urgency, we can't meet in real life. We have to do it now. We're doing it in a hurry. The price is too good to be true. That is a warning for you. All of the tools are out there. They're great. Yes, just like we use them to help us write well, criminals are using them to write perfectly grammatically correct phishing emails. Here is Copilot, and I'm saying, hey, I'm a criminal. I want you to write me a great email, no typos, no grammatical errors. Copilot said, hey, can't do it because there are guardrails in place. However, ChatGPT said, let's go. And ChatGPT wrote it for me. And look how the urgency. That's why during your buyer consultation, you must tell them you're going to get emails. They may look professionally written, well written, grammatically correct, but I'm telling you, do not trust anything. Pick up the phone and call me on the number known to me. And then also, if you're preparing market reports and you're uploading your buyer, your seller's information, address, a lot of information, and the tools to get a custom report, stop it. You're giving that private information to the public, to the tool. You redact it and then you create it. Let's talk quickly. I've got about a minute or two. And if you think I've been going fast, hold on tight. The goal is for you to be aware that this is happening. I saw a video of Queen Elizabeth talking, and then she got up and she started dancing. It's like, what am I looking at? Turns out it was a deep fake. This woman took Queen Elizabeth's face, put it on her body, and made her do things Queen Elizabeth never did. If you look at this picture, and you will all start to look and try to guess which one of these is real, which is a deep fake, I would tell you that none of these people exist on the face of the earth. AI deepfakes are getting better and better and more tricky, so you need to be careful. This is a house with a slight foundation issue. I can go into Canvas Magic Erase tool and erase defects and property issues. Keep in mind that criminals can use these tools for that same reason. A good way to use it, I saw this picture and all of the agents were saying, what a junky countertop. I erased those in Canva. Now, I didn't touch the fixtures or anything built in because that would be a problem. So you need to make sure that you use them properly. This is a deep fake that I created and it looks so real. So as a real estate agent, you must understand that there will be properties that are not real. You must do your due diligence. How can you tell if a picture is a real picture or not? AI has a problem with the hands. Sometimes not enough fingers, sometimes too few, none at all. Also, in real estate, you're writing a listing description. Here, AI said, hey, something, a family home, you and your family, and then it talked about walking along the beach. Both of those are violations. So that's why you must fact check every single thing that you that you produce in AI. This is my deep fake house. In your business, what if people send you properties, you want to know if they're real or not? Go to Google Lens, which is AI. It's like a reverse lookup. You don't see that house anywhere, so it more than likely isn't real. This is a real house in Kansas City. AI found it. Almost all properties have been on the market at some time, so you're using it to find property. Google Lens is your friend for all kinds of uses. And we're going to wrap with this. Cybercrime is human. If you don't have an antivirus on your devices, get one. Avast was recommended to me by an IT expert. He is saying on all of the free version is good enough. I haven't had a virus in years. If you do not have cybersecurity insurance, you must get it. Talk to your E&O agent because if there's ever a data breach or any issue and you get sued, your cybersecurity insurance policy will hopefully protect you. You need to back up all of your documents, get a cloud backup. Carbonite is a great one because ransomware is real. If a criminal hacks into your system, they hold all of your files ransom and they won't give it to you unless you pay. And law enforcement officials will always say, do not pay because once you pay, they will come back. And secondly, they still may not give your information. So Carbonite, try that, or another cloud-based storage. And then passwords or so yesterday, no more passwords because that's how cyber criminals are getting into your account. You must use a passphrase, which are two or more unrelated words. It could be the purple cow danced for ice cream, something that doesn't make sense. Criminals will never guess, but even better is a pass key. That's biometric. That's a thumbprint or a face print. I told you I have a twin sister. Her thumb will not open my accounts, neither will her face. And I know criminals can't do it. So pause, stop, and think. Always update your security settings. Don't press remind me later. That is the company's way of saying, hey, there's been a problem. Here's how you fix it and make your device more secure. Set up automatic updates overnight when it won't stop you. Okay, we talked about this already. Okay, so that's pretty much everything that I have for you in today's short times fan. Keep in mind that AI is here. It could create so many different issues unless you're trained. But after today, you at least know to question everything. I want you to check out my Rip from the Headlines podcast. Here are the stories. The Florida real estate agent, I interviewed her, talked to the agent, the broker who talked down a gunman, and then also my Real Estate Safety University, small brokerages. If you say I can't afford a national speaker, now you can. I make it simple and easy. Here's a book I am giving to you all. ChatGPT and I co-wrote that for you. It covers the cybersecurity stuff that we talked about today and some we could not get to. Here is the seller security checklist that I showed you all. You're going to get a link to download this. This is when you're walking through the house with the sellers. And also an article I wrote about it for Realtor Magazine, the FISBO safety tip sheet for FISBOs. This is something you're not going to talk to them about listing or having a buyer. You will hand this to them, mail it to them, stick it in their door. And it's things that they never thought about. The safety things I talked to you all about, not showing a loan, getting valuables out of sight. Staple your business card to this. And I guarantee you, by the time they get to number 15 and they realize that deep fakes are out there and they need to worry about being scammed and defrauded, your business card is going to rise to the top of the list. I wrote an article about it. Here's your homework. Take a picture of this. Have I been pwned? Enter your email address. You're going to get a list of sites that have had data breaches where your password is on the dark web. Change those immediately, and keep in mind that your buyers and sellers will too. I'm not going to have time to talk about the safety tools and products, but that's an upcoming Realtor Magazine article, Weapons. I want you all to watch for that article. And then there's the website, the Facebook page. And again, you're going to get the link. So here we are. Here is my email address. Take a picture of this in case the QR code does not work for you. And if the QR code doesn't work and you want the FISBO safety tip sheet or the cybersecurity book or a link for the smile you're on camera signs, just email me and say OCR request. I know where you come from and I will get it to you. Now I'm going to give you the QR code, and the QR code will allow you to download a link to all of those things, even the Facebook group and everything. So does anyone have any questions of me? I feel like I talk a lot. Anyone have any questions, any feedback? Anyone learn anything new that you're going to be doing different? Debbie said, thanks for getting it all in. That is my mission in life. And also, I'm going to share with Elsie the link for the conversation tomorrow with Forewarn. If you're thinking about Forewarn or curious about it, I encourage you to log in and hear from Josh. He's one of the sales vice presidents. He's going to do a demonstration and answer questions. So I will share that with her. If there are no other questions or any other feedback, I want to thank you all. I'm looking, I see awesome things, great session. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, thank you all so much for being here today. And thank OCR, the Orange County Realtors Association, for taking safety seriously. So thank you for looking out for your members and allowing me to be a part of that with you. Anything else? Okay, well, if there's nothing else, I want to thank you all so much for being here today, and everybody stay safe.